Hello. Testing? Yes, hi. Welcome everybody. Very happy to see you all here. Welcome to the International Queer Migrant Film Festival. This is the third day and we'll be running until this Sunday. So let's start off with introducing myself. I'm actually not from the International Queer Festival, but I'm from TranScreen, which is another film festival based in Amsterdam as well. And we are a transgender film festival that is taking place every 2 years. So the next edition will be coming May. So I hope to see you all there as well. I've been working as the festival organizer for a couple of years now, and I noticed a few things along the way. First of all, there's actually a tremendous amount of films being made on transgender themes and issues. And I think this number is growing by years, so that's clearly a good sign. But on the other hand, I also feel like a lot of those films are not being screened on big screen and mainstream media. So I guess there's still enough work to be done there. And also feel like sometimes LGBT festivals tend to forget the T a little bit in the queer alphabet. So that clearly needs also some work. And then when mainstream audience does get access to transgender representations, I think it's often from a very one-dimensional point of view. So usually it's a very wide Eurocentric Western perspective, or from a very medicalized one, in which our bodies are the main focus basically in films. So as a community festival, we feel that it's a duty to offer a bit more diverse spectrum of representations of transgender people. And today we want to do a focus on trans non-Western perspectives, intersectionality and migration through genders and communities. So we will see 2 films from India, and they are both connecting transgender issues to other social issues, for example, class, culture, tradition, and religion, and so on. And you will see how the protagonists are in search of their own communities. And hopefully you'll get a better understanding also of the struggles, the struggle this could be. Also, what's important is that being trans is often not a separate issue, and that it's mostly connected to other social, cultural, and economical structures as well. So I think this search for a place for a community is a thing that a lot of trans people go through in daily life. And this could be seen as a form of migration itself, I guess. Just trying to think a little bit outside of the border box. So let's explore this together today and see what could this migration through genders and communities actually mean. The first film that you will see is called Transindia, which is a documentary. And it explores choosing a new home and family, while at the same time trying to maintain the ties with one's culture, and also how British colonisation has still today left its mark on the lives of many transgender women in India. The second film is also a documentary from India, which is called I'm Bani, and this one zooms in more on the power of media, on the lives of trans individuals, and how it mostly also again focuses on our bodies. So what does media do to our self-image, and how does it influence other people's perspectives on our bodies and our identities as trans people? So, having said that, I will finally get to the point, because we have a very special guest here today. We actually centered the films around this person, which I will shortly introduce. And they gave a TEDx talk in Brixton last year, where they talked about their experiences on identity, being a brown, trans, queer, and Muslim person. And today they will talk about intersectional identity, the role of colonisation, and media and gender identity. Then we will see the films after this talk, and after the talk, if you're interested, and I hope you are, we'll have a little bit of an after talk. So I hope everybody will have some questions, and we can discuss it a little bit more. So please stay seated. If not, then that's also fine, and you can find us later at the bar or something, we can talk about it. So without further ado, please welcome to the stage a UK-based trans activist, queer Muslim social justice fighter, co-founder of Trans Pride Brighton, and writer Sabah Choudrey. Not there. Okay, stay where we go. So I just want to give a really big thank you to International Queer Migrant Film Festival and TranScreen, Michael and Farha. Thank you so much for having me. It's really amazing, right? Like, what an awesome few days. It's incredible bringing all these people together. So I did find myself asking when Mike asked me to talk, why am I here? Because I'm not Indian, I'm not a filmmaker, sorry. So yeah, why am I here? And the answer is simply that my story is not one that's shown. Much like Transindia and I Am Bonnie, our stories aren't shown. I'm trans, I'm queer, I'm Muslim, I'm Pakistani. My story just isn't seen. And maybe it's one that doesn't want to be seen. Sorry. So yeah, much like the films that we're going to see today, our narratives are based on the delicate intersection of our identities. Our race, our gender, our faith. And to survive these intersections may be surprising, it might be shocking, but for us, it's natural, and it's absolutely necessary. There was a time when I believed I couldn't survive on these intersections. Once upon a time, I made myself choose, and I forced myself to hide. I forced myself to pick an intersection just so I could see myself reflected in the outside world. But that came at a price. I could choose to be brown and abandon my queerness, or I could choose to be queer, but I'd have to adopt whiteness. I talk about it now with an awareness and a level of self-reflection, but for the most part of my life, I had no idea I was choosing. It just felt, this is the only way. But there was one shaking moment when I realized it wasn't the only way, and I knew it wasn't the right way. The day I came out as trans was the same day I came out as brown. I know that sounds kind of silly. I'd been talking about gender for a while, so it was a process that I came to terms with. And my skin color, well, I just hadn't ever realized that I wasn't white. I was living in a white town with white friends, a white partner, and all the conversations I had about being myself were with white people and about white experiences. Being queer was just synonymous with being white. I removed the hair off my upper lip and stomach in secret. I kept my Desi family and their accents private. I drew white lines and told white lies between me and my roots. I know that hurt my family. Not being queer, but being white. And when I came out as trans, I had my eyes open to a world, to an identity and a body that I would be migrating into. I understood what gender really meant and saw what femininity looked like and what masculinity I desired. And when I looked within myself, I saw I would never fit those molds. My femininity is brown and hairy and undesirable. My masculinity is brown and threatening. My experiences of gender are racialized, and I can't separate that. It was painful coming out as brown. I cried when I realized the color of my hands and my body was brown and was never going to change. Whiteness, white queer and trans people could no longer be my point of reference. There was nothing out there that told me who I was okay. No one existed. And I felt like I shouldn't exist. This is when living on the intersections becomes surviving on the intersections. I stopped letting myself be defined by just one part of me. And that's what intersectionality did for me. It validated me, all parts of me. The word and the theory of intersectionality was new to me, but the experience was familiar. And I think that's what intersectionality is. It's where parts of our identity merge, the parts that face oppression, that feel hurt, but also the parts that hold power. It allows us to identify our privileges as well as name our injustices.
Because I can't choose which identity and which part of me comes first. Here in the West, I'm brown first. Back in Pakistan, I'm queer first. And in America, well, I'm Muslim first. As we move through communities and migrate through countries, our identities move and migrate too. Being forced to choose only tells us that whatever minority we are, we're never going to be enough. We live under set structures that define and dictate norms and expectations. And these structures are built on historic and institutional power and built off oppression. These structures are patriarchal. These structures are colonial. When these structures produce gender norms and beauty standards and language, we see the true power of whiteness. We see how being beautiful is being white. We see transgender identity as colonized. And as queer trans people of color, we're working towards Western liberation models, where our freedom is gay marriage, the right to have children. We as trans and queer people of color are following white LGBT narratives. We're coming out as the only way to show you're proud. And I'm not saying that these things are wrong. They work for us. But these aren't our only ways to be proud, to be liberated. Being trans is still seen as a Western ideology, as if it was invented in the West, as if we weren't being trans before colonization, as if we didn't have our own words to describe ourselves. I guess trans in that respect is a white invention. Because what trans looks like in my country goes before and beyond that. The country I live in now colonized the countries of my mother, my father, my ancestors, and imposed laws that ostracized trans people. The Hijra community. The British Empire is responsible for the persecution of Hijra people, responsible for the homophobia and transphobia that so many Westerners see synonymous with Muslims and Desi people. And at the same time, the UK is waving the rainbow flag and leading the way for trans and LGBT rights across Europe and the rest of the world, telling us that this is how it's done. This is how to liberate yourselves. The truth is, any conversation on homophobia and transphobia needs to include a dialogue on colonization. The truth is, any examination of my own gender and queerness is inherently about decolonization. My journey is a reclamation. My transition is a migration. Migrating away from the narratives that I'm told I need to follow to exist, out of the white default constructs of gender I've been imprisoned in. We are migrants forced to leave our countries. We are migrants within our own countries when communities force us to leave. We are migrants forced to leave our too brown and too queer bodies. Our search is ongoing. Our gender is always shifting. Our home is never still. Yes, our migration is painful. But if intersectionality is my decolonial tool, then I can take my first step in migration as decolonization. My first step in migration will be reclamation. And then one day, I'm sure, I will find my way back home. Thank you.